All right, so today we're going to look at 3.2 notes on arithmetic sequences. And yesterday when we were in class, we were working on these patterns, right? And we were creating these lists of numbers, and the pattern was that you were adding the same number each time to create the list, or you were subtracting the same number from each term to create the list. And so that's actually a special type of list. It's called an arithmetic sequence. And that's what I have in this bubble here in the middle. We're going to be talking about an arithmetic sequence. So an arithmetic sequence is a list. In fact, that's what the word sequence means, is a list of numbers that have a common difference. And when I say a common difference, I'm talking about that number that you are adding or subtracting in order to create that list. So you add or subtract the same value to produce the list or sequence. And I'm going to actually use the word sequence just as a reminder that, again, sequence means a list. There is a formula that goes with this, and when we work through the back side of the notes, we're going to talk more about how this formula gets put together, but the general formula is a sub n equals a sub 1 plus d times the group n minus 1. And you hear me with this verbiage, I'm saying a sub n, because n is a subscript, and so we say sub as in subscript, okay? And this is a sub 1, and we'll talk more about what those things mean here in a little bit, but that's how those are pronounced. D, by the way, is this common difference, okay? D represents that common difference. Okay, some examples of an arithmetic sequence would include something like 2, 6, 10, 14. In order to create this sequence, I am adding 4 in order to create my list, okay? Another example would be 30, 20, 10, 0, right? And in order to create this list, I'm subtracting 10 each time. I want to get an example in there with some fractions. So if I have negative half, negative 1, negative 3 halves, negative 2, right? In this case, I am subtracting half. Or you could say that you're adding negative half. Okay, either of those would be fine. So some things that are not examples of an arithmetic sequence would be something like 2, 4, 8, 16. Notice that, yeah, I'm adding 2 to get from 2 to 4, but then I'm adding 4 to get from 4 to 8. I'm not adding the same number each time. In fact, this ends up being a multiply by 2. And so sequences, arithmetic sequences, are not produced by multiplication. They're produced by addition or subtraction. This is not a good example of an arithmetic sequence. Another example would be 3, 4, 5, 9. All right, so it looks like I'm adding 1 to get from 3 to 4, adding 1 to get from 4 to 5. Oh no, but then I'm adding 4. And so because I fall out of the pattern, this is not an arithmetic sequence. I have one more example for you. So negative 1.5, negative 4.5, negative 13.5. Okay? So again, let's check. To get from negative 1.5 to negative 4.5, I'm subtracting 3. Well, to get from negative 4.5 to negative 13.5, I am not subtracting 3. Okay? I'm subtracting 9. And so again, not going to work because I'm not adding or subtracting the same number. Okay, So I'm going to have you guys go through this with me. It says determine whether each sequence appears to be an arithmetic sequence. If so, find the common difference. If so means if your answer is yes, then you're going to go ahead and find the common difference and the next 3 terms in the sequence. All right, so let's take a look at problem 1. I have this list of numbers, or this sequence, 12, 8, 4, 0. And to get from 12 to 8, I have to subtract 4. To get from 8 to 4, I have to subtract 4. To get from 4 to 0, I have to subtract 4. I'm subtracting the same number each time, so yes, this is an arithmetic sequence. The common difference is the number I'm adding or subtracting. I'm subtracting 4, so that represents my common difference. The next 3 terms would be me starting here at 0 and continuing this pattern. And so if I continue this pattern of subtract 4, I would have negative 4, negative 8, minus 4 would give me negative 12. Okay? All right, let's take a look at the next problem. In the next problem, to get from negative 4 to negative 2, I'm adding 2. If I add 2 again, I go from negative 2 to 0. Oh, but to get from 0 to 1, I'm only adding 1. There's a break in my pattern. So because there's a break in my pattern, this is not an arithmetic sequence, which means I cannot give a common difference. And since there's no pattern, I do not know what the next 3 terms in my sequence would be. All right, number 3, it says 11 and a half to 13. Okay, well, I'm not really sure. Some people have an easier time than others figuring out what I have to add or subtract to get to the next term. So I'm going to try a strategy. I'm going to say, well, what is 13 minus 11 and a half? Oh, that equals 1.5. Okay. What that means is I had to add 1.5 to get from 11 and a half to 13. Well, if I do 13 plus 1.5, I get 14.5. So that works out. And if I add 1.5 to 14.5, I get 16. So that works out. So this is a yes. My common difference was 1.5. And if I continue adding 1.5, 16 plus 1.5 would be 17.5. Plus 1.5 would be 19. Plus 1.5 would be 20.5. So what I actually want to do is I actually want to point out what this little strategy was. That's what this star here is for. The star here is to have a strategy to find the common difference. And while in math I know that we're used to formulas that have variables or numbers in them, this is going to be more some words to describe how to find this common difference. So again, we said that common difference is represented by D. And in order to find the common difference, I could take the second term, right? In this case, my second term was 13, minus my first term. I'm going to write the word term in there, my apologies. So second term minus that first term. I did that here. I took the second number in my list, 13. I subtracted the first number in my list, and I got what ended up being that common difference. You just have to go through then and make sure that that common difference that you got will work in the pattern for the remaining terms in that list. Okay? So just a little hint there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause this, and I'm going to do a video part 2 so that we can work through some items on the back.